This pension crisis that you think about a lot, you've been part of this administration for a long time. The governor's made, as part of this, $35 billion?
$35 billion and change.
Okay, so there's a $2.5 billion.
Big change, millions and change.
Yeah, not small change.
Yeah.
So the governor's proposed a $2.5 billion commitment to pay into this pension fund. That's a big number by anyone's standards. However, this hole in the pension crisis for public employees is huge.
Right.
What would you do right now to close that gap so that New Jersey's fiscal underpinnings would be a lot stronger than it is, and that pension fund is better than it is right now? Because it's horrible.
Well, you know what it is. It's insolvent. So we all know it's insolvent, not because of a Republican problem, not because of a Democrat, or you could say it's because of all of our fault.
Yep.
But it was in that shape when we came in. This administration has made the largest number of payments to the pension. I think it's double whatever the last 5 governors have done. But it's still insolvent, so we need to fix it. So you're right. I'll tell you what I did when I was in the sheriff's office. I'll give you the same conversation to you.
In your previous job?
In my previous job, I was the sheriff. I had 8 labor unions. And the big issue was the pension payment. And the answer I gave to them is, don't believe me, I'm management. Don't believe your labor leaders because they have other interests. Go back to your own accountant and ask your accountant if that pension is going to be there when you retire. And if the answer to the question is no, then let's come back and let's talk about how we fix it. And let's fix it in a way that's acceptable to you, the public pensioner, who's going to have to live with it. So that's the way I would attack it at a 30,000-foot level. I know in Trenton right now they're talking about putting the lottery in it and increasing the value, the asset value from 49% to 65%. I hope they can do that. There's a lot of complicated constitutional issues.
You would agree with the governor on that? The governor says, let's take the lottery funds, put it into that.
I think I think it's a good start.
It's a good start.
But it's a good start.
We need to go much further than that. Do you believe that public employees, either those who are in the system right now or those who are coming into the system, that the state should renegotiate those contracts as it relates to health care benefits as well as retirement benefits?
Well, I don't think there's an alternative. This is what's happening right now.
There's no alternative? Phil Murphy sat here and said, absolutely off the table. Can't do it. State has to find other revenues. It has to be off the table for now.
He said that this year when he's running for office.
Sitting right there.
When he's in the pocket of every special interest group in New Jersey.
What does that mean, in the pocket?
NJEA endorsed him. PBA endorsed him. Name me a special interest that hasn't endorsed him, except for the Chamber of Commerce. So wait,
Lieutenant Governor, that doesn't mean being in the pocket to get their endorsement.
Let me answer the first question.
Go ahead.
Let me answer the first question, which is the pension issue, right? If you're being told, if he tells you he can make a full pension payment, which is $5 billion this year, plus or minus some millions.
A lot of money.
A lot of millions. And a $10 billion health care payment this year, that's $15 billion.
Out of a $35 billion budget.
We started with that $35 billion baseline. Just answer one question. Which schools are you going to close? Because you will have to in order to pay for the pension. Or which, and you still won't have enough money, and which hospitals are you going to close because you're going to have to pay for the pension? It's a toss-up. This is the conversation. This is why I say, when I met with my sheriffs, don't believe management, don't believe labor, go back to your own accountant. If the money's not going to be there when you retire, which is the path we're on now, then let's come back and figure out how to protect the public sector unions who believe they were getting a pension when they signed on. Because you know what's happening? I'm interrupting you again. You know what's happening is, right now, we're hiring teachers and telling them there's going to be a pension. We know it's a lie.
Let me ask you something. Whether you got the endorsement of the teachers union or any other public employee union, would you tell them exactly what you're telling them right now?
I have. I screened with the NJEA. I told them exactly the same thing.
Whether you thought you were going to get the endorsement or not, you said the same thing.
I want to sit down and talk to them.
By the way, NJEA is a big supporter of public broadcasting, to fully disclose. You just went and said what you just said.
Absolutely.
Was it a good conversation back and forth?
It was a healthy conversation back and forth. Yeah, sure. Because that's the major problem right now. People need to accept that it's insolvent. They need to accept that we need to fix it.
Define insolvent so everyone understands it.
That the money's not going to be there when you retire.
Just not going to be there.
Not going to be there. Now, I said 12 years. The Byrne Commission, Healy Commission said 12 years.
You're
that was
talking
2 years
about
ago.
Tom Byrne, Democrat, who headed up the commission.
The bipartisan commission to talk about how we fix this thing. They said 12 years, so that was 2 years ago, so 10 years left. The NJEA, when I was there, was talking like 20. I said, okay, I'll take the middle.
Wow.
Still, the pension's not going to be there. And you're hiring teachers and police officers and career firemen right now, promising them a pension that we know will not be there. And that, to me, is offensive. That should offend everyone. So let's sit down and talk about it. Let's look at the lottery. Let's see if we can't fully fund it. And you know what could happen. The governor's funded, what, I think 2.5. Tom Byrne came out last week and said if we just made some adjustments in the health care, and I'm sure it's more than just some, because it would close the gap, and you could put another 2.2
I want to get to some other issues.
2.2 in. That's $5 billion. That's a full pension payment.
Right.
But they're going to have to negotiate on the back end, the health care side.
Are you going to let me get another question?
No, it's my interview.
Here we go.
We wanted to talk policy.
That's what happens.
There
You got to
go.
get into the weeds a little
Yeah.
bit. All right, how about this? The school funding situation.